The evening was quiet as if the world had forgotten how to breathe, and in that silence she walked through the narrow street where time once danced softly with her laughter. The walls seemed to remember her touch, the air still carried the faint whisper of her name. Everything had changed, yet everything stayed the same. She looked at the cracked windows and faded doors of old houses that once knew her footsteps. The ground beneath her feet was covered with dry leaves that spoke of seasons gone by, and her heart trembled with the ache of something she could never quite name. It was not sorrow and not joy, but something in between, a stillness that settled deep in her chest. As she passed the corner where the bakery used to be, she could almost taste the sweetness of warm bread and hear the soft hum of an old song, the one he used to hum when the mornings were filled with sunlight and promises. She smiled faintly and let her fingers brush against the cold stone wall. She thought about how memories never truly die, they just hide, waiting for quiet evenings like this when the heart is too tired to fight their return. She followed the faint scent of rain, though the sky was clear and the wind was warm. It was strange how memory could trick the senses, make one feel what no longer existed. She reached the small bridge where the river once flowed wild and free. Now it was nothing but a shadow of itself, a thin line of silver caught in the fading light. She leaned over the railing and watched her reflection ripple softly. She wondered if he would still recognize her, or if she was now just another ghost wandering the forgotten corners of yesterday. In the distance she could hear the chime of an old bell, the one that used to call them home when evenings turned golden and the day folded itself into dreams. She closed her eyes, and for a moment she was there again, standing beside him, his hand warm in hers, his eyes full of unspoken words. The wind carried their laughter across the fields, and everything was light, everything was alive. She opened her eyes, but the world was empty. Only the soft rustle of leaves answered her longing. She walked on, letting her heart drift between what was and what could never be. The path led her to the meadow where once they had built a small wooden swing. It was still there, swaying gently as if time itself had kept it safe. She approached slowly, her breath catching. She could almost hear his voice telling her to hold on tighter, to never let go, but life had made her let go long ago. She sat on the swing and let it move with the whisper of the breeze. The horizon was painted with shades of amber and rose, the kind of light that carries secrets of both endings and beginnings. She closed her eyes and let the memories flow like a river, unseen but deeply felt. She saw his smile, the way he looked at her as if she were a poem written just for him. She saw the night they promised to meet again under the same stars, the promise that never found its tomorrow. Her heart ached with the gentle beauty of what once was, and she realized that some love stories do not end, they simply find a place somewhere only memories go. She stood up slowly, feeling the weight of time pressing against her skin. She whispered his name to the wind and it carried it away, soft and endless, as though the world still listened. She turned back towards the town where shadows grew longer and the lights began to flicker one by one. She walked past the old bookshop, its window dusty but still filled with forgotten dreams. Inside she could almost hear the sound of turning pages, the scent of ink and hope mingling in the air. She used to come here every Sunday. He would wait for her by the last shelf near the window where sunlight spilled like gold on the worn wooden floor. She remembered how he would hand her book without saying a word, and how that silence spoke more than any language could. She could still see the small note he had once left between the pages, written in his careful hand, "Someday we will return." She smiled sadly, knowing someday had long passed, yet somehow she was here. Maybe this was the return, maybe memories had called her back to finish what life had left undone. Night was falling slowly, wrapping the town in a soft quiet haze, and she felt the hush of it seep into her bones. The streetlights flickered awake one by one, casting pools of pale light that trembled on the old cobblestones. She walked without thinking, letting her heart lead where reason could not. The scent of rain still lingered, though no clouds gathered above, and every shadow seemed to breathe with forgotten echoes. She reached the small square where music used to play and children once chased each other through the dust and laughter. Now it was still, save for the gentle hum of the wind moving through the rusted fountain. She sat by its edge, tracing her fingers along the cracks where time had left its mark. She remembered the way his voice once filled this place when he spoke of dreams too big for the smallness of their world. She remembered the way his eyes shone brighter than any light that touched these streets. She closed her eyes and the world came rushing back, the sound of his laughter, the warmth of his hand, the promise of forever whispered beneath the stars. It was strange how memories could feel more alive than the present. She opened her eyes and for a moment she thought she saw him standing across the square, half hidden in the shadow, his face turned toward her as if waiting. She blinked, but he was gone. The night swallowed swallowed him whole, and the ache in her chest deepened. She rose and walked again, her footsteps soft, her heart louder than the world around her. She passed by the old station, its windows broken, its tracks rusted over with time. Once it had been the place of beginnings and endings. The smell of coal and dreams had filled the air. That morning he had waved from the train window, his smile fading into smoke. She had promised to wait, and she had kept that promise longer than she should have. She stood before the empty station now, her reflection caught in the cracked glass doors, and she whispered a quiet goodbye, not to him but to the part of herself that had stayed waiting too long. She turned away and followed the narrow road leading out of town. The moon had risen pale and full, bathing the fields in silver light. She walked until the houses disappeared behind her, until the only sound was the rhythm of her own breathing. The night air was cool against her skin, and every step felt like shedding another layer of yesterday. She came to the hill where they once carved their initials into the old oak tree. The letters were still there, faint but unbroken. She ran her fingers over them, feeling the rough bark and the smoothness of memory entwined. She smiled softly and sat beneath the tree. The stars stretched above like silent witnesses, and she felt him near, not as a ghost but as a presence made of warmth and wind. She began to speak softly, telling him of all the years that had passed, of the days that blurred into one another, of the nights when she thought she had forgotten and the moments when she remembered too much. She told him of how the world kept moving even when hearts stood still, and how she learned that memories were not chains but wings, invisible yet strong enough to carry her through the silence. She closed her eyes and let the wind play with her hair. The night was alive with quiet stories, the hum of crickets, the whisper of leaves, the faint echo of something eternal. She thought of all the people who walk through life carrying memories too heavy to name, and she wondered if maybe somewhere beyond time all memories meet and rest together in peace. She lay back on the grass looking up at the endless sky and felt a strange calm wash over her. The pain did not vanish, but it softened, became something tender, something almost beautiful. She realized then that the place she had been searching for was not on any map. It was here, in the heart, in the spaces between breaths, in the silence that follows after the last word. Somewhere only memories. Goth dawn was slow to come, as if the sun too hesitated to disturb the quiet peace of night. The world around her shimmered softly in that fragile hour between darkness and light. She could hear the faint rustle of life, waking birds murmuring in hidden branches, the sigh of the wind brushing over the grass. She rose from where she lay beneath the old oak and turned toward the distant horizon, her heart lighter than it had been in years. It felt as though something within her had finally found its rest. She walked down the hill, her feet brushing dew from the wildflowers, each step carrying her further from the weight of yesterday and closer to something unnamed. The road ahead was long and open, the kind that stretched into forever, and for the first time she did not fear it. The sky began to blush with soft hues of gold and rose, and she felt the warmth touch her skin like a memory reborn. She smiled to herself, not with sorrow but with quiet understanding, for she knew now that some love stories do not end in loss, they simply change shape. They live in the unseen corners of the soul, in the gentle spaces where memories breathe. She reached the edge of the river where the first light met the water, turning it to liquid fire. She knelt there and let her fingers slip into the cool flow. It moved around her hand as if greeting an old friend, and she whispered softly into the wind, "Thank you, not for what was lost but for what remained, for the love that had become light, for the pain that had taught her how to see the beauty of small things." She stood there watching the sun rise higher, painting the sky with the promise of another beginning. The town behind her still slept, its streets wrapped in the hush of early morning. She thought of the swing in the meadow, the cracked windows, the dusty bookshop, all of them pieces of a life woven into her heart like pages from a story no one else could read. She knew she would leave soon, not to escape but to carry these memories forward like lanterns guiding her through the unknown. She turned once more to look back, and in the soft shimmer of dawn she thought she saw him again, standing by the old bridge, smiling not as a ghost but as a gentle echo of what love had been. She did not reach out, she simply nodded as if to say, "I remember," and that was enough. She began to walk the path that led beyond the river, her shadow stretching long and golden behind her. The air smelled of new beginnings and quiet hope, the kind that blooms only after long silence. She carried within her the weight of all the yesterdays, yet it no longer felt heavy. It was a part of her story, not a chain but a song she would hum to herself on lonely nights. She walked until the town was only a distant outline, until the fields opened wide before her and the sky seemed close enough to touch. She felt alive again, not because the past was gone but because it had become something softer, something that whispered instead of cried, and in that whisper whisper she found peace somewhere deep within her. The words he once said still echoed, "Someday we will return." She smiled and whispered back, "We already have, for this was the place where all lost moments come to rest, where every heartbeat once shared still lingers in the hush of the wind, where every goodbye folds into forever, somewhere only memories go."